everybody is doing well. That's hearing me now. Looks like we've got about 120 and climbing people that are joining the conference on how to become a network design ninja. So as Anthony said, I thrive on interaction, which is funny because most of the teaching I do is now to myself. So when I get the chance to do one of these things, I'm like, oh, people that actually respond and listen. And so anyway, it's rather exciting for me to do this. So please, as Anthony mentioned, chat in any questions, and we will be happy as much as I can in reading the flurry of questions coming in, be able to answer those for you as we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is dive into what I would, I kind of went with the ninja theme here and came up with about 5 or 6 principles of becoming a network design ninja, meaning a person who can walk in and assess a situation, look at an organization and say, okay, here is what I would do. Here is the way that I would design it. The fact is, network design is totally different than network configuration. Some of you have heard me share my early stories of consulting. I had actually gotten my CCIE, which everybody's like, oh, well, you know everything then, right? You've reached the end, right? Well, so here's what happened, right? I walked away from the CCIE being like, yeah, I know everything now because I passed this, so I must be able to do anything. So that's when I started doing consulting in addition to a lot of the training that I do. And one of the first consulting jobs that I had, they brought me into an empty warehouse, and they go, okay, so we need a network that will cover this warehouse, make sure that we address all the needs that we have. And I still remember that weird, awkward feeling of standing there, and they go, so what would you do? And I'm like I was literally speechless. I was, for me, that's really rare. But I was struggling to find words because I was like, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, there's nothing for me to fix here. I mean, like, what do I buy? Where do I install it? How do those were all totally foreign to me and caught me totally off guard when I got in there. So it took me a long time to actually start maturing my skills from configuration, troubleshooting, those kind of skills into a realm of network design. So these 6 principles are what I've learned over those years. So principle number 1 is know the technology concepts, meaning you and I often focus on the configuration, right? How do you set up OSPF? How do you make a BGP relationship happen and load balancing and failover and all those kind of things? But that's not what you need for network design. You need to know the concepts, as in what pieces go into the right puzzle spots. That's a totally better way of saying that, but you get what I'm saying. A lot of times, you ever hear the saying of, you don't know what you don't know. Early on in some of the network designs that I did, if I were to go back, the ghost of Jeremy Future were to come back to the ghost of Jeremy Past and say, hey, let me take a look at your design, I would totally throw it out the window because I know so much more now of the concepts of how things work and how the puzzle pieces fit together. That's how I meant to say it. To be able to assemble that network. So what I suggest on here is configure when needed. And if your focus is design, configure it to learn the concept, to say, okay, oh, that's how it works. That's how the failover happens. Wow, it actually takes 10 seconds for that to flip over. I didn't think it would take that long. I wonder, what am I doing? All those kinds of, like do the configuration. If your focus is network design, do the configuration to learn the concept. More so than the configuration itself, right? Second thing that I would suggest on this, and this is a big learning, I could relay, and it would take far too long, so many stories of pain that I've gone through where I've come into a network environment and I said, oh, well, this is how we should do it, right? And we actually go to do it that way, and then I get like 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, oh, my goodness, this totally is not going to work. It was good on paper. I thought, I drew it up and everybody's like, yeah, that sounds great. But when I actually got to putting it in, it was totally not at all what it should have been. So So know it when you're creating these designs. Don't guess it will work or don't hope it will work. And there's so many engineers that on paper will draw it out and say, that should work. And you actually get a whole organization funding plan and sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars behind that. And that's where you get there and you're like, oh, wow, this is not going to work. And in fact, it's going to cost X dollars amount more. And, I just found out I didn't even need these 13 devices. And so anyway, that's the idea behind knowing those technology concepts. Question coming in from Roger. It says, do we have to know how to configure before we can go into design? No, actually, not at all. The configuration, I actually know many network designers that don't know how to configure it. I will say having that configuration background, being able to do it will make you that much better. But technically, no, you actually don't have to be able to configure it if you know the concepts. And I see some other questions coming in from Zach is talking about the CCDP certification and things like that. That's one of the things I'm going to end with. So Zach, I'll actually answer your question at the very end on the Arch series. That whole series doesn't really even have any configuration at all in it. It's all just concept. Here's how these pieces fit together in that. So excellent question. So precept number 2, simplify. I have seen many network designs that look great not work out because it just gets too complex and people get lost in the complexity of it all. Networks should be, and I know this, some may disagree with me, but I would say they should be simple. I've seen brilliant designs following the best practices and all of those kind of things that just, when it comes to the practicality and supporting it, they flounder and just don't do as well because it's just not simple enough. There's too much complexity and it causes too many unknown variables to come up, and you have people scratching their head when the network isn't performing like it should and not even knowing where to look. So, when you see this, you're like, oh, how could you say that? But I'll say it, don't subnet for the sake of subnetting. You know what? A /24 subnet mask, 255.255.255.0, sounds elementary, but by golly, everybody gets that. And if you can use a Class C subnet mask, then do it. Don't create a whole bunch of custom subnets all over the place that just adds complexity. Don't route for the sake of routing. Now, this is like, what? Because everybody's like, okay, route everywhere, get rid of spanning tree as much as you can, convert all your links over to layer 3 links. And I'm all for that, and there's a place for that. But again, I've seen a lot of network designs that adds routing all over the place, and before long, people, you just get lost. It's going, okay, why is that subnet there? Why are we, you're trying to do something simple. I just want this wireless access point to, bridge over to the other side, but you can't because somebody put that routed boundary in there, and just, again, adding technology. Actually, I just thought of a great way to say this. Every solution that you put in place in a network design should be to address something, meaning there should be some problem that you're solving with the technology. If you're just putting the technology there for the sake of it, then that may not be the best thing to do. Yes, that switch can be a layer 3 switch, but you know what? In that 20-person network, maybe you don't need layer 3 switch functionality. Maybe just some flat VLANs and a good old router on a stick would work out better because of the complexity that it introduced. So simplify. Precept 3, build your templates. As you go, and sometimes, I will absolutely agree with this statement, there is no replacement for experience. You can read 1,000 books, listen to 1,000 lectures, but until you actually do it, and it doesn't mean that you have to be in a business environment. I mean, give it a try in your house. Everybody knows, if you've listened to me for any amount of time, I'm like, come on, convert your house into the ultimate data center network. I mean, you don't have to break the budget to do it. The Cisco devices are pretty cheap nowadays off of eBay. But did I say eBay? I didn't say that. So build your templates with that. Standardize your VLAN design. If you go into small businesses around the world, small business I'll just define as being less than, let's say, 200 people, right? You're going to see a lot of themes. Like, Matter of fact, I was just up at CBTNuggets in Oregon this last week, and same kind of challenges that just about every other 200-person or less business would have. Hey, we're running into Wi-Fi coverage issues. Hey, we're running out of IP addresses because everybody now is a walking device. They have their smartphone, their tablet, their 50 laptops, their all these different things that are eating up all the IP addresses in a /24 subnet. So again, all the same challenges. So you can start creating your small business VLAN design, your small business IP subnet design, your BGP filtering templates, your access list templates. I mean, start templatizing a lot of your designs because you can use them again and again and again and make them good. I'm not just saying, oh yeah, I use 5 VLANs at every site that I go to. I'm talking documented. I know. I said the word document. A lot of but I mean, create a notebook with paper that you turn the pages. And page 1 has a description. Hey, small business design. Here's the advantages and all that kind of stuff. Flip the page over. Okay, these are the typical VLANs that I would roll out. Flip the page over. These are the typical subnets that you get the idea, right? The second thing, and this is the key. You know what, Anthony? I just thought of this. I have a pen. Look at that. Right fit equipment. Meaning you will see equipment come and go. Create your standard catalog. What do you normally use? Is it a Cisco? My mind just blanked out because I'm thinking of home networks, like a 3550 switch, or what access points you use. Create this catalog in that notebook. You've got all your standard practices of these are the switches I use, these are the routers I use, these are the XYZ that I use. So that's the idea of creating that, so the standard gear to buy, because you can spend so much time and still end up with the wrong gear if you are trying to find new gear every single time you go to a customer site. Couple questions I've seen trickling in. Tim is saying, I've seen a current recommendation for subnet sizes such as 1,000 hosts or less than 500 hosts. Is there agreed upon subnet size from a design perspective? That is a great question, and let me tell you the evolution. When I got into technology, and I would say this is probably around 1998. I'm going off the top of my screen. Essentially, anything greater than a 254 subnet size, a Class C subnet was like, ooh, you don't want to do that because the broadcast traffic, oh my goodness, it'll be so much. People run screaming, ah. But things have changed in the last 20 years or so. Things have gotten better, equipment, switches, processors on devices. So nowadays, if you create a subnet of 1,000 devices, it's not a problem. Seriously. Now, there are other considerations, like your risk goes a little bit higher on security because now you have this large flat layer 2 domain where people can access each other, and the more devices you add becomes more of a potential security vulnerability because they can start attacking each other and stuff like that. But that's security. That's another topic. From a network design issue, feel comfortable rolling out a subnet size of 1,000 devices or 1,024 devices technically, right? That is able to service the public Wi-Fi, and I would encourage that. Otherwise, you run into these, I've got to create another public VLAN because I keep running out of IP addresses because of all the devices that are there, right? Good question. Precept number 4, monitoring, always. What I mean by that is whenever you set up a device in your design, always design it to be monitored from the outside and inside. So here's what I do when I set up any kind of network. Here's let's just say a small business, right? And you've got a firewall connecting out here to the internet. Inside, you typically will have a server or something servicing the needs and all that, and all the clients and wireless access points and switches and everything else that goes inside of that business. I'll just draw a little arrow there. I will install monitoring. Let me get a different color here. I will install monitoring on this server from the inside out, and I will have it monitor the firewall, the wireless access points, the switches, and all that. And then I have an outside source for the monitoring. I mean, use AWS if you want to. Use whatever you've got. Get a little server from the outside and monitor from the outside in. Hit that firewall from the outside world using some kind of secure SNMP. Use it over a VPN, whatever you would plan to do. But you're sitting out here, right, at your house or your business or whatever realm you're in. I can't draw a dot, so we'll go slanted. You're watching your console of things going wrong. If you don't monitor from both angles, what you'll see, I mean, so let's imagine you don't have outside-in monitoring and the internet goes down. Well, what happens is you just see the whole site go dark, and you're going, okay, did the power go off? You know, you have all these questions. But if you have both angles, you can actually say, okay, well, it looks like I've lost a whole bunch of monitoring inside, for example, but I still see the firewall online. You immediately know this isn't an internet connection failure. This is something on the inside. Maybe the server is going down. Maybe the switch feeding the network is going down. Visibility is so critical in your network designs. Because this is what really allows you to respond quickly even before people know it. That's why I said this is how you earn your ninja title. You call them up, you're like, hey, I'm seeing there's a wireless access point down over in your, I mean, I can't, oh, there's so much I want to say to you right now. I can't tell you how many times I will see a wireless access point goes down. Those things are like Pez candy. They just go because somebody unplugs them, or there's a cable failure or power over Ethernet failure or something, and you see that thing go dark on there. And the problem is users are like, oh, we've got poor internet connectivity. I mean, the reports come in so many different ways. So having visibility and designing monitoring into everything is absolutely critical. Document. Precept number 5, document. Just do it. The way that I do this, because nobody initially likes to document, the way that I like, or that I get myself documenting, is to reserve the time. Anytime I schedule a network installation or a network design, I will always add time afterwards to document. And then I literally, I mean, it's like, good grief, it's like an exercise program. Seriously, it's kind of like you wake up in the morning at 6 a.m., you said you were going to go running for 2 miles, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I mean, nobody at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning or whenever you go running wants to get out there. It's cold right now. And, here in Arizona, it's 60 degrees. It's freezing. So you go outside, you go running, and what happens? Well, at least for me, some people aren't this way, but like a mile in, maybe 2 miles in, when I'm done, whatever the case is, I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I did that. I feel better. And it's the same way with network documentation. Reserve the time, because and know that when you get to that time, you're never going to want to do it. You're always going to be tired. You're always going to be like, there's more important things to do than document this right now. And I will, many people may disagree with me, but I go handwritten. That's always where I start. I know some people are like Visio ninjas. I've even gone through the Visio course at CBTNuggets, and I'm like, okay, I know how to use it, but I can't tell you how many times I'll open Visio, and I'm like, okay, server, and I put the server on there, router, and I put the router on there, and I draw the lines between them, and the connector kicks in, and I'm like, no, that's not what I want. No, stop the connector. No, wait, and then 15 minutes into creating this beautiful Visio design, I'm like, and I'm fighting connectors and trying to make the line straight and make it look good and fit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Anyway, I could go on and on of my Visio page. What do? I pull out a piece of paper, my notebook, literally, and I say, okay, here's what I've got. I've got this router, and I so wish I could have video on this. I probably can, but it would you would see the trash of my office. Sitting right next to me, it is a Pilot G2 0.38. It is ultra fine, 0.38 tip pen. I have a box of them in both red, black, and blue. And I carry these things. I keep them clipped to my notebook wherever I go, because this thing is such a fine point that I can draw these circles and I can draw the lines, and it doesn't bleed over, and it looks actually really good. And you know what I do when it's all said and done? I've got IP addresses labeled. I've got port numbers. That's a 0/1. By the way, 0.038 is not like the pen that I'm using right now. This is like a fatty marker. But you draw everything out, and at the end of the day, I scan that thing in. Some of them never progress beyond my handwritten notes. And I'll tell you, there are so many times when I come back to it and there's that handwritten drawing, I'm like, oh, perfect. Now, as you get into an enterprise organization and documenting a full network, obviously giving them a stack of notebook loose leaf papers is not going to be viewed upon well. So that's where you'll want to take the time to get into Visio, or if you're a Mac user, get into OmniGraffle and things like that. Now I see, and I'm just staring at it because I'm like, how do I respond to that? Andrew is asking the question: are there any recommended standards for documentation? Yeah. I mean, just go to Google and type in documentation network recommendations, or flip those words around, right? And you'll get all kinds of recommendations. But the fact is, it doesn't matter. And by the way, Cisco does have, I will say, if you get into their network design guides, they do have. We suggest that you document this. There's all kinds of suggestions out there. But I'll go back to the simple. One of my precepts on there. Document what you need. Because you can spend so much, you can turn an entire career into documentation by the time it's said and done. But if you document what you need, that's going to be what's useful to you. And I can't tell you how many times I'll go back to my loose leaf folder, and I'm kind of, it just floats my boat. I buy the, Anthony, what do you call those things? The the little plastic things that you put in the notebook that you slide the papers into, and so it looks really nice. I do that, and I put little. I'm so low tech. I'm like an Amish technologist, right? To where I've got this loose leaf notebook with literally plastic sheet covers and the dividers, the little yellow ones like you would write the little name on when you're in grade school. I use that. And every customer that I have, I can pull out that notebook, I flip to that, and there's all my handwritten notes. Change was made. I pull out that paper of the sheet, exit out, and put it in there. Now, have I spent a lot of time redrawing network diagrams? Yes, I have. And that's, for me, the time is less than actually getting into Visio and doing it in Visio. So I would call that more of a Jeremyism, but the reason I put this out here is because a lot of people don't do documentation because they get into the tools that are provided: Excel, Visio, OmniGraffle, a lot of the the tools that are like, yeah, for $59.99, you just push this button and we'll automatically document your whole network for you. Right? Yeah, keep dreaming. There's still work, and it's going to spit out a whole bunch of junk that you have to now tweak and move and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people shy away because of that. That's why I make these comments that I do. So lastly, because I've seen a couple of these, and then I'm just going to turn it over to questions because I see a number of them that I haven't gotten to yet. Cisco Arch Series. The reason this webinar is here is because we just at CBTNuggets released the Cisco Arch Series. Halfway through creating this, I actually created it for the 642-874 exam, which is still alive and well and active until the end of this year. I think January 1st it expires. Cisco released a new version of this about midway through when I was creating this, and I was like, and so I looked at what was new, and I was like, I'm just going to finish this one and add kind of a supplemental update pack, because there's really not much new. It's just, obviously in the last 5 years or so, IP version 6 has become a bigger thing. Video, voice, quality of service, those kind of things have become bigger things. But overall, network design is network design. So that's the Arch series. And so coming back to Zach's question, he was saying, what about the 300, 320? That will become the update pack that I released for that series. So that is the CBTNuggets Arch series. So I am going to just camp out here for the last 5 minutes or so of this and hit as many questions as I can coming in through the queue. So if you haven't already, chat a question. If you want to hang out and listen, feel free to. If you want to head on out, feel free to do that too. So I'll start at the top. So Sean is saying, please tell me you're going to release a CI/CD series soon. Yes. Actually, that's totally outside of the design world. That is in the CCNA collaboration series that I'm working on now, which is the replacement for CCNA voice and CCNP voice. So yes, I literally, as I was getting ready for this webinar, I was recording the first video of that new series. So that is coming. Yes, Mark is saying, I'm currently prepared to take my CCDE written within 2 weeks, but I cannot find any CCDE Cisco Pressbooks and very limited material. Also, do you have any recommendations on the PPD-IOO? So there's a whole lot in that question. I'll answer what I can. First off, CCDE, there's literally not much at all material that I've seen out there for it. So it is one of those, go to the exam recommendations from Cisco. and just start tapping out the different resources that they've suggested to prepare for that. On PPDIOO, that is Cisco's design, or I'll say more of a maintenance strategy for network. It's plan, prepare, implement, design, operate, and optimize. Did I pass? So that is actually covered in the art series. I go through a lot of the recommendations on that, and that is a great model to create kind of a life cycle. That's the word I was looking for, a life cycle for your network. Mike is saying, what are your thoughts on distributed VLANs via trunks down to the access closet? Oh, Mike, you're tapping my technical side. He's saying, what are your thoughts on distributed VLANs via trunks to the access closet versus routed VLANs back to the core? Okay. Can you guys hang with me for a sec? Check this out. So this is the design. You got your access, distribution, and core layer, right? Distribution, access, and core. So Mike's question is saying, do you have any thoughts on using, if you got distribution, got your little redundant switch network going on, something like that. Should this be layer 2 or should this be layer 3? I'm going to kind of fill in some of what you're not asking there, Mike. Overall, I would say if you're going simple, and when I say simple, I'm talking small network, layer 2 works well. If you're designing this thing for scalability and safety, layer 3 works well. And by the way, if you want, that's Jeremy's side. If you want Cisco, they will say layer 3 all day, every day, right here. Change those into point-to-point links. Why do they do that? And I know some of you are thinking it's because they sell more equipment, right? Sure. But besides that, it actually works really well when you configure these things with no switch port under each one of these and convert them to little point-to-point LAN links. The only thing that you have to solve, and this is the simple thing, is you no longer have continuity. And what I mean by that is layer 2 across the network, to where you can just plug in, let's just say a phone over here and a phone. It's not a phone over here and a phone over here, and they're on the same network, right? You have to kind of start thinking, okay, I've got different subnets all over the campus, and that's okay. You just have to plan for it, and you got to think about things like, if I have another Apple issue come up, Apple is brilliant because they market so well, and everybody's like, you can't insult Apple, or you called my mother, Anyway, Apple, designs their stuff for home networks, but people start bringing them into the enterprise, and you start having to deal with protocols like Bonjour protocol or a lot of the Apple discovery protocols. People are like, I want to find my iTunes. Anyway, I'm on a soapbox now. But, Mike, I would suggest if you can go layer 3. It's a cleaner design nowadays to do that. Unless you're in a small network, go with the simple, go layer 2. Don is saying, what's the difference between the new CCDA and the current CCDA? Just honestly, it's just a timeline update. So you just see more of the technology and where things are going, like the design we just talked about, where it is, layer 2 versus layer 3 design is now more prevalent going in layer 3. You see a lot more IPv6 protocols. You see a lot more, a lot less T1 lines and a lot more fiber Metro Ethernet connections. All those kind of things are being, so it's just a refresh of technology. Let's see, I've got enough time for a couple more questions, so I'm gonna, they're coming in too fast. It's like gremlins, the little, they're coming. Mr. Bell says, would pre-configuring an environment in GNS3 or Cisco Viral be, before deploying it to the real world, be considered a reliable way to prove out a network? Oh yeah. I would say it works very well to prove your configurations work the way that you think they do. So yes, a lot of people have heard me say, buy equipment for your home, and I still stand by that. But when you're proving a network, sometimes you can't buy a complete lab environment. GNS3, Viral, both of them are a good proving ground, as long as you're okay accepting a weird bug every now and then. I've used it as a proving ground. And, I'm troubleshooting. I'm like, why is this not working? And then I come to find out, oh, well, it's just, a bug of some sort. So besides that, works well. One more question. I'll take Mr. S. What is your favorite network monitoring product and solution? I can unabashedly say it is PRTG. Not because I don't like SolarWinds, because that's what everybody else says, But just because I have deployed PRTG so many times and it's so familiar to me, and it's like a cozy pair of bunny slippers that every time I roll it out, I'm like, that is so easy. And every time I get solar winds, I don't think that. So it's probably just because I know PRTG so well. So anyway, there is a flurry of other questions coming into the queue, but we are out of time. So Anthony, could you wrap us up?